So, hi, Mrs. Weatherall here. We're going to talk about the greatest common factor and how to pull that out of trinomials and even four-term polynomial. So remember, the greatest common factor, or GCF, it's going to be the largest or the biggest number that is the factor of both. In other words, what multiplied by it. So let's start with some examples. Let's jump right in. So if I'm looking at 7x and 49, notice there is no x with the 49, so I can only factor a number out. And using my factors, whatever skills I need, whether I need to use a Desmos, whether I need to do my factor tree, I can see that 7 will come out of both of those evenly. So then what I do, and this is a little bit different than what Miss Messer was showing you, I just do it a different way, is I take that factor and I take my 7 up here and I divide it by my 7 there, which gives me 1. I cannot do anything with the x, so I bring it down. And you don't have to have that 1 in front of the x, but I'm just doing that for teaching purposes. So 1x plus, I bring the symbol down, and then I take 49 divided by 7, which is 7. So 7x plus 7 is what you get when you take out the factor. So moving on, 8m and 6. There is no m with the 6, so I cannot take a letter out. The greatest common factor is 2. So I take my 8 and I divide it. You're dividing it by your 2, which gives you 4, and you have to keep the m. I'm bringing down my minus. 6 divided by 2 gives me 3. So your answer, 2 times the quantity 4m minus 3. So let's move on. Let's look at number 4. Let me use a different color here. Now notice on number 4 here, I have a 10q and a 25q squared. Now I've got the q in both of those, so I need to remember when I'm taking out the factor that I have to take some out of the q's. So 10 and 25, I look at the numbers first, and I know 5 is the greatest common factor. Now you take the lowest exponent, so you've got q to the 1, and then q to the 2. So q1 is lower, so I'm going to take a q out. And then I'm going to start a parenthesis. So I take 10, and I divide it by 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2, so 2 goes inside your parentheses here. And then if you're dividing q1 and q1, you subtract exponents. So you're left with q0, which is 1, so you have no q's left. You have 1 q and you take 1 away. So I bring my minus sign down. And then I go ahead and do my 25 divided by 5, which is 5. So I put my 5 inside my parenthesis. I have 2 q's and I'm taking away 1, so I have 1 left. So your answer is what I just highlighted there. So looking at 6, I've got 81r and 48rt. All right, so using my Desmos calculator, I'll show you how to do that in another lesson. But I can find the GCF is 3, so I'm going to take a 3 out of 81. And looking at my letters, I've got an R in both of them, so I'm going to take an R out of both of them as well. So now I start my parenthesis. I'm going to take a 3R out, start my parenthesis. So 81 divided by 3 is 27. I have an R and I take away an R. I don't have any R's left there, so I'm going to bring down my plus. 48, and I'm going to divide it by 3, is 16. I have 1 R. I take away an R, so I have no R's, but I have the T left. So you're looking at 3R, 27 plus 16T. Okay, so what happens when we get something like 32 here? 32a squared and 24b squared. Okay, so I'm looking for a common factor, the GCF, and I'm just going to take a gander there and say it's 8. Did you like my word gander? I have a squared here, b squared here. They are not the same variable, so you cannot take out the variable. So 32 divided by 8 is 4, and I have to have my a squared. And then 24 divided by 8 is 3, and I have to keep my b squared. So there's your answer for that. So moving on, I've got other examples listed. I just don't want to overwhelm you with small details. I'm going to make this video short. Let's do the one on the bottom here. So I'm looking for a GCF of 30 and 35, a number. I know it's 5. Looking at the x, I've got 3 here and 2 here. What number's smaller? 2. So that means I'm going to take x squared or x2 out. I've got a y here, which is a 1 there, and a y2 here. Which one is smaller? The one with the y, the 1. So again, I don't need that 1 there because I know it's there. Then I start my parentheses because that's my GCF right there. So then I take 30 divided by 5, which gives me 6. I have 3 x's. Taking away, subtracting 2, leaves me 1x. I have 1 y, and I'm taking away a y, so that leaves me no y's. So then I bring down my plus, then I start over using my 35. So I take 35 divided by 5, which is 7, and it goes in the parentheses after the plus. I have 2 x's, and I take away 2 x's, so I'm left with nothing there. I have 2 y's, and I'm taking away 1 y, so I'm left with a y. So your answer, 5x squared y, is your GCF. Inside the parentheses, 6x plus 7y. But what happens, I know you're asking, you could pause that if you need it back. What happens when you have 3 terms, Mrs. Wetherell? Oh, I'm so glad you asked, because now we're going to work into factoring. I'm going to do a separate video on factoring trinomials, but this is to take the GCF out of them. So I am looking, and I can see the numbers 8, 24, and 16. I'm not going to do this one up here. So 8, 24, and 16, and I'm looking for the GCF, and it is 4. No, it is 8, sorry, it's 8. Then I look at my variables. I've got a P2 here, a P1, and a P1. What number's lower, 1 or 2? Hopefully you said 1, so I bring 1P out. Then I look at my R's. I've got a R2 here, an R3 here, and an R. Remember, there's a 1 there if you don't see it. So what's number's lower? The R. So those are the GCF. That's what I'm going to bring out. So now take each number. 8 divided by 8 is 1. You don't have to put the 1 there because there's 1. You have 2 P's, you take away a P, you have 1. You have 2 R's, you take away 1 R, and you have 1. So inside the parentheses is your PR for the first term. Then you bring down your plus sign, or excuse me, your minus sign. There it is, minus 24 divided by 8, which is 3. So wrong, I meant to write 3. In my mind, I said 3, but in my hand, it said 8. So 24 divided by 8 is 3. I have 1 P here, and I'm taking away 1 P there, so I don't have any P's left. 3 R's here, and I'm taking away 1 R there, so I have 2 R's left, R squared. Then I move to the last term. I bring down the plus. Let me make it a little clearer for you. So I bring down the plus, and I take 16, and I divide it by my 8, my GCF, and I get 2. I have 1 P, I take away a P, I don't have any left. I have 1 R, I take away an R, I don't have any left. So the factored 8 PR, and then you have PR inside the parentheses, R squared minus 2. So that's taking out a GCF from a trinomial. One more thing I want to tell you about is what if you have 4 terms? Well, we're talking about taking out the GCF, so let's find the GCF. Let's see. Now, 6, 8, 15, and 20. There is not a GCF for all 4. So this is the cool thing about math. I'm going to show you in another video how to take out a GCF when you have 4 terms.